We're going to go ahead and jump in. Thank you all for joining us for this webinar on how effective communications can lead and inspire. And as Tom and I talk about this morning, the role of effective communications in leading others and inspiring others, we have content that we could talk about for days, weeks, years on this. We could facilitate conversations with teams throughout an entire year on these topics. We have 30 minutes. And so we're only going to cover just a few points, but we hoped to be able to cover this morning the importance of clarifying the direction of the organization, helping team members know what their role is in achieving that direction, reminding others of their moral purpose. And so we're going to explore that a little bit. What do we mean by that? And then intentionally recognizing the good work, the what of what individuals are doing within our organizations, as well as intentionally appreciating our teammates. And it's the month of November, the month where we pause to give thanks. And rarely do you hear Tom and I talk without talking about the importance of appreciation. So we'll get into that as well. It's essential in terms of leading and inspiring others that we communicate those pieces. So we would really encourage you to chime in on the chat as well. If you hear us saying something you want to reinforce, you want to ask a question about, we'll be watching that as we go. But first, Tom, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, good morning. Tom Speaks. The Impact Group started the company about 24 years ago. I'm really excited to have you guys here this morning to talk about how to motivate your audience through leadership. And I have to say that we're out here serving Miami County Park District right now. They have a community facility, and I'm in the bridal changing room of the facility. So I know it looks like a kind of a fairy princess office, and I'm embracing it this morning. So here I am.
It's great. All decorated for the holidays as well. Thanks for getting us in that spirit, Tom. And I'm Phil Herman. I'm a partner at the Impact Group. I've been with the Impact Group for a little over 2.5 years. My entire career up until that point was in public education, many of those years as an administrator and as a superintendent. And so, Tom, you ready to dig in? Let's dig in on these points. So, Tom, if you could get us started with kind of the importance of helping people understand where the organization is going. Where are we going?
This is one of those things that this is like so obvious, right? I mean, people need to have a clear understanding of where the organization is going. Okay, that's great. We work with a lot of school districts, boards of DD, park districts, other entities where when you talk to their employees, honest to gosh, they have no real idea of where they're going. There's a vague understanding. So everybody understands this, but a lot of people don't do it. This is one of those things, if you've worked with us before, you've heard us say that people need to hear things 11 to 15 times for it to sink in. This is something you don't talk about your agency's mission or your school district's mission, whatever, one time and move on. This is something that you live and breathe and make sure people. Oh, we've got somebody out there with their microphone on. At the Impact Group, our mission is we positively impact people's lives. That's what we do. That's our mission. We talk about it all the time. It's part of what we do. That is why we exist. And it requires a lot of repetition, a lot of discussion, a lot of just being in the forefront of what we're doing. I mean, Phil, what do you think about the idea of having the people's clear idea of where we're going and making sure that people are on board with that?
Well, Tom, you already said the importance of repetition and that we cannot stress that enough. If we're talking about where an organization is headed, the purpose of that organization, as well as goals or objectives coming up for the coming year, the coming months. How are we repeating that over and over and over and over again? Have you ever followed someone on social media and you feel like, oh my gosh, they're always just posting about the same things? Well, that's intentional. They're posting about the same thing because they understand the importance of repetition. You should actually be sick of talking about your organization's purpose and direction because it is reflected in your email communications, on your website, in your conversations, almost every time you stand up in front of a group as a leader, talking about the direction that you're headed. That repetition is absolutely essential. When you begin to hear others start to voice that direction back to you in conversations that you're having, Now you know that you are starting to connect. You are just starting to connect when you begin to hear that voice back to you. So uh, we would just say in all of these components that we're talking about, please understand the importance of repetition and just repeating over and over and over and over again the direction. There will be different flavors of it. You will be explaining something that's happening within your organization, within a school district, within a parks district, within a city, and you will reiterate your purpose through telling a story of what is happening. But it should always be woven in to your communications.
And as leaders, it's our responsibility to continue to connect people's activities and our events and the things we're doing with that purpose. And not only repetition, but simplicity. Again, the impact group, we positively impact people's lives. That's what we do. We worked with the Development and Disability Agency several years ago. What do? They help people live, learn, and earn. That's what they do. That's what it's all about. So simplicity and repetition and an intentionality amongst leadership to continually connect the events, the activities, everything we're doing back to that mission again and again and again.
And here are some quick strategies for how you can do that. When you're having a staff meeting, can you consistently start it with a quick recap of the organization's goals or progress towards achieving them? That just reminds people of what those goals are. Just quick updates. Or we've seen places send a like vision in action email periodically, and they're just explaining how members of their team are living out that vision or mission in action. Just examples from the previous quarter or the previous month. At the Impact Group, we have quarterly company connection meetings where we review our mission, vision, our core values, and then look at our what we call our rocks, our big goals for the next quarter, as well as what progress we made on those from the previous 3 months. And so those are just quick strategies you can think about incorporating, but it is extremely valuable when leading others to help them understand the direction that the organization is going. Then it takes us to the next point, which is a logical question for anyone working inside one of the organizations. It's how am I in my role helping us get to where we need to go? Tom, talk to us about that.
Yeah, this is one of those things too that I think as leaders, sometimes we assume too much. We assume people have an understanding of what their role is and how that role connects to the greater good or the purpose of the organization. It's our responsibility to continue to remind people of that. And especially with some of the roles in an organization that may not have a direct link. The people that repair your bus driver maintenance people, because if they didn't do what they did, by gosh, then the kids wouldn't be there to educate. Your nutrition folks, if the kids don't have the nutrition that they need, by gosh, they're gonna have a hard time concentrating in class. Your custodial folks, the idea you need a safe, warm environment for people to learn. Are they aware of that? So how are we connecting people to that? We have to intentionally make sure that people understand their role and how that role connects with the greater good. Well, we have found that people will not make that jump. It is a jump of logic. We as leaders have to make sure that there's a clear understanding of how their role impacts the greater good.
Yeah, I think that is so powerful because we know that when people understand their role, it builds confidence in them. When they see the connection between their work and the bigger picture, it builds confidence in terms of I know what to be doing within in my day-to-day work. I know how it impacts others. I know that I'm pulling in the right direction, and the vast majority of people in our organizations want to be pulling in the right direction. Sometimes we're not that clear with them about what the right direction is, and that's why we bring that up in terms of helping others understand what their role not only is, but how it helps achieve the greater purpose of the organization.
You know,
Again, some examples of how we've seen this done in places. Um, uh, sharing success stories. At the Impact Group, every Monday we have a weekly connection meeting, and we just do shout outs. And our team members recognize one another and how their role helped us achieve our greater purpose or the overall direction. And it's powerful week in and week out. We have team members who are going out of their way to recognize someone else for the work that they're doing. But what it really does is it helps us how we see all of our different roles connecting to directionally where we're headed. We also, I mean, a lot of you have cross departments, big departments, and you can have cross departmental collaboration. Just talk about the overall goals and say, are we pulling in the same direction? What are you doing towards this goal? What are we doing towards this goal? How are we helping one another achieve that goal? That's another example. And then encourage people to think about what is their individual impact. Um, uh, they can create an impact map. How am I in my role helping to achieve these goals or directions? They can talk about that with the supervisor, but what is their impact map? That's again another strategy we've seen work in places.
Again, we found that most people, they want to do a really great job. And if they have a clear idea of their purpose, they'll actually come up with great ideas. They'll come up with great initiatives and great this stuff on their own because they want it to be good. One of the things we talk about a lot, and we have to credit Brene Brown for this because it's her quote, but that to be clear is to be kind. To be unclear is unkind. And look, I think we're all kind people on this call. We all want to clarity for someone, crystal clarity. What is your role here? How does that connect with the greater good? You would be shocked at how many folks don't have this sense of connection, this sense of purpose. They really don't. So this requires real intentionality from the leaders to ensure that each person actually has this connection. And man, oh man, if you've got a big group of folks that have a clear idea of what they're doing, tied to the greater good, you are unstoppable. But again, that requires work, that requires intentionality, that requires a lot of effort.
Let's move on to our third point and about the importance of reminding others of their moral purpose. Uh, Tom, talk to us a little bit about this.
Now, I'll kind of briefly hit upon this, but Phil, this is something you're quite passionate about. Just the idea, we're kind of hitting this, the idea that the people have a clear idea of what their role is in the organization. But again, how does my role help us achieve the best things we're going for? And Phil, would you kind of fill in the blanks here? I know you're just very passionate about this one.
Sure, thanks. So yeah, you're exactly right. So we think about organizations' goals or objectives or where the organization is headed. We think about everyone understanding what their role is in achieving that. But the fact of the matter is, this work as leaders and for the individuals in your organization gets tiring. There are challenges. It's not only is it hard work, but we're dealing with a lot of people, and people are messy. And if you haven't noticed, in society, people have strong feelings today, and those often represent themselves in conflict, and it gets exhausting. And being clear on our moral purpose actually is extremely powerful for helping to fill that cup. And to remind ourselves, and it always starts with a self-reflection as leaders, and then there's opportunities to have our team members join in on that reflection, and then for us to collectively share that moral purpose. And here's what I mean when we talk about moral purpose. Here's what we mean: are we clear on why we are doing this work? What is the greatest reason for our work? And one reason or one way to answer that is to ask the question, why me? Sometimes as victims, that's the most common question we ask, right? If something happens bad in our day and I walk outside and there's a flat tire on my truck today, and I need to be somewhere, I'm going to be like, why me? If something much more serious happens, and I get really sick, we might say, why me? But that is extremely powerful question in our work as well. Why me? Why have I been placed in this position in an organization to be leading others? I just have been given this big responsibility, and it is a huge opportunity and a big promotion. Why me? What am I there for? Again, what is the greatest reason for my work? Or answer this question, who or what am I helping by doing this work? Um, what is the meaning of my responsibilities? What is the primary purpose of my responsibilities? Ask yourself those questions. And when answering those questions, it will provide you all the motivation you need to continue to push through. It enables resilience. But at the same time, if you are clear on that question, it shines through. When you start talking about organizational direction, when you start talking about what you're doing and the reasons why, as a leader, and clearly communicating that to those that you lead, you inspire others. They want to come along because of your purpose. It serves as a compass for you. But we have to answer that for ourselves first. Always starts with self-reflection. And then there's the opportunity to engage members of your team in that same question or those
It's
same series of questions. What's the
to
greatest
expand
what's the greatest reason for their work? Yeah.
Yeah, and to expand on that a little bit, the idea again, we need to provide that link. We've found that a lot of times staff members, they equate sometimes the lowest denominator or of what they're doing to my job. We work with a lot of development and disability communities. And we'll have people, we'll ask this frontline employee, what do you do? And the answer is, I clean bathrooms. I do grocery trips. No, that's actually, well, you do those things, sure. But because you do your things, you allow some of the most vulnerable people in the state of Ohio to live really wonderful lives. That's what you do. You have people in your finance department. What do you do all day? Gosh, I do spreadsheets and expense reports. I appreciate that. You doing that allows this machinery to run so we can then support the kids so they can have a great education. We have to continually remind people because they get stuck in the minutia of the tasks, that task is an absolutely essential part of this overall mechanism. If we don't continually remind people, they'll get into the weeds of some of the more unfun things they do. The last piece here too is it kind of Phil hit upon this. It gives wind in their sails, right? Gosh, I got in the development and disability field because I want to help with people with development and disabilities all day. And gosh, all I'm doing is spreadsheets or this, whatever else. Intentionally connect them with the people you're served. School districts, are we intentionally connecting some of the people that are in our district, which maybe are back office people? Do they get to see the fruits of the awesomeness of the things we do? All of these things require a lot of intentionality to make sure that people that they feel that connection, they feel that sense of their moral purpose.
And again, so what does this mean for communications? For communications, first of all, uh, as I said before, it starts with that self-reflection. So do that self-reflection and then tell others about it. Tell others about what your purpose is. Um, then move it to your team. Host a purpose workshop where you're asking your team members to reflect on those same series of questions, and then to begin talk to one another about it.
Yep.
It builds powerful team and encourage them to share, encourage them to do the same thing with others within the organization. Begin sharing that, and then put it out there publicly. Highlight some of the experience or testimonials from those people that you serve, from your students, from your community members, from the individuals with disabilities and their families that you are serving. Put it out there. At the Impact Group, we put on our website some of our client testimonials. We put on our some of our examples of the work that we do and how it makes a difference. We're communicating how we make an impact. And that is important when leading and inspiring others so that they can see what you stand for. But it also reinforces, even for yourself, that the work you're doing that is challenging and difficult and hard, um, and sometimes seems impossible, is making a difference. It's extremely, extremely powerful for you as a leader, but also for those that you lead. They will buy into your moral purpose when you're clear on it.
The key here, and we've said it 100 times, intentionality, intentionality, intentionality. The people on this call, I imagine, are a lot of our superintendents, the head leaders of your organizations, whatever the executive directors. Think about your next level of management, your mid-level management. These are things they need to be taught. mentored the rest. They need to begin imbuing these type of concepts and ideas throughout the organization, and then you can really fly.
Um, our our next two points really are about intentionally and clearly recognizing the what and recognizing the who. So let's take the what first. Tom?
Sure. There's something that there's recognition and there's appreciation. And they're often confused. It's a subtle difference, but there's a big difference. Recognition is being recognized for a good job. And that's a wonderful thing. That's the what. So somebody has done a good job. The report is spot on. They did a great job leading a class. They had a great interaction. There's something that has happened, and we catch them doing something right. We provide that recognition. That's a wonderful thing. Keep doing it. It's an essential part of a positive organization. If you have an organization that is recognizing those people that are doing good work, there's about a 23% increase in productivity. Scientists have found, they've done a lot of studies, 23% increase when we lift people up for the what. Here's the difference. There is the what is the recognition. Appreciation, I'm going to jump ahead here, Phil, and both can talk about this, is the who. So the recognition is I recognize that you have done a great job on that project. Great job. I'm going to build you up. The appreciation comes in when things don't go well. If something hasn't gone that great, if something doesn't go well, it's insincere to say, great job with that. That's insincere and it's not true. Appreciation is, look, that didn't go very well, but you're a great team member. I'm so glad you're with us. I appreciate you. Let's go get them next time. That's the who. That's knowing people. That's building people up. That's making sure people have a clear sense of their purpose in the organization. If people have that sense of appreciation, there's a 43% increase in productivity if they believe that leadership cares about them in a sincere way. So appreciation is the who, recognition is the what.
Tom, I think you gave me the analogy of a baseball team the other day, and I thought it was so good. A pitcher can pitch a no-hitter, and everyone would celebrate that. That'd be incredible. And they just pitched a no-hitter, and there would be celebrations and recognition and appreciation in that moment. And that same pitcher could be up in a different game, and it's not going well, and the manager has to go out and pull him. Can that manager show appreciation at that moment, even though it wasn't a good game? It didn't go well. It was they were the pitcher uh, was messing up, but the manager went out and pulled him. Can still show appreciation in that moment. I thought that's such a good analogy between sort of the difference between recognition and appreciation.
Yeah, I mean, this is where Phil said at the beginning, we could talk about this stuff for 4 hours nonstop. That this is the idea of connecting with those that you work with in a positive professional way. Do you know something about them? For Pete's sakes, do you know their names? Do you know something about them? Are we connecting at a level where they actually feel as though it not in a salesy handling way, do they actually feel like you're connecting with them because you actually care about them? When you do that, and then again, you can imbue that moral purpose. My goodness, you can fly all day long, but once again, purposely saying intentionality, intentionality, intentionality to both recognize 23% more productive and actually appreciate the who 43% more productive.
Tom, can you talk to us about the importance of specificity in recognition?
Yeah, that's so when we recognize people, one of the things we found is we need to be very, very careful to not appear superficial. If you're just saying, and some different people on this call right now, Phil, you're awesome. Okay, that's cool. I think that Lauren is on this call, so say, Lauren, I appreciate that you stayed extra 2 nights ago. There was that project that was due. You were really intentional about getting that done for the deadline. I appreciate you getting that done. Of those two, which is the more powerful? certainly it's the second one where you're specific. If you want recognition to stick in a meaningful way, be specific about what you're recognizing. So rather than just a general, you're awesome, say you're awesome because of A, B, and C. Two things happen. One, it sticks more because people they feel as though you've seen them. The second thing is the staff knows that you know what they're doing. We find a lot of times that staff members they just simply want to know that somebody else knows the great efforts they're putting in. So if you're going to recognize somebody, the idea to be specific is really a powerful tool.
Yeah, and something else that we found is when talking about the what, there are opportunities to discuss that together. What is good work? And explore that together. Then you have an opportunity to collectively get into the specificity of what is good work. At the Impact Group on Fridays, um, during our account lead meetings, we often share examples of good work. And we talk about what makes that good work. And what that does for all of us is we begin to learn about one another's definitions of good work. We begin to recognize that there are opportunities that we didn't even, that I might not have existed, but a team member knew existed, and they're defining that of what they were able to do. And collectively, it raises all of our games. Just by having conversation together, not only does it recognize the good work, but we begin to develop this common understanding and definition of good work as well. And that's another way of not only recognizing good work, but enhancing our understanding of what we can do to provide good work.
The key for a lot of this, I think you guys are hearing a central theme here. It's intentional connection. I think it's something that we work really, really hard at connection. And connection, it takes time. It takes effort. And we're all very busy, but something Phil says a lot, which I appreciate, is sometimes you have to go slow to go fast. And I think sometimes we think, oh my gosh, I'm going to spend time, have this connection meeting, or we're going to have time for shout outs and let's just get down to work. Well, if you want to get down to work, that requires connection, that requires clear communication, that requires understanding, that requires forgiveness, that requires a lot of elements that require this connection. So we would advocate strongly building times for that connection with a larger organization for the different units, whatever you have to do. And to hit on it again, Phil said at the beginning, it's a small thing, but at our Monday meetings, we have shout outs. The different team members are just very intentional about being, a specific thing that another team member has done to move it forward. And some things are very client facing. Some things are, we did this for a client and it's very obvious. Other things are one of our team members investigated a new phone system. Something as dry as toast that actually is really important because that supports the rest of our work. So that intentionality in recognizing one another is it's a purposeful built-in thing for us.
We just have a couple minutes left. If anyone has any questions or any thing that they wanted to share, feel free to put that in the chat as we come close to wrapping it up here. The last point that Tom already talked about was clearly and intentionally appreciating others. Tom talked about some of the statistics there in terms of the 43% higher productivity when that's happening consistently in an organization. But Tom, what are some little ways or examples that can happen that you've seen? As we think about communication, how can we very simply intentionally communicate appreciation?
This is where people they get all complicated. We have year-end banquets and other big things, and that's great. Keep doing them. But man, just popping your head into somebody's office and saying, I so appreciate the way you did ABC the other night. You're really awesome. Thank you. Or a quick little thank you note on someone's desk or a post-it note. Or there's 1,000 silly things out there. There's little labels you can get that say your soda bomb. How silly is that? Your soda bomb, you cut it out and you stick it on a pop can and you put it on their desk and just say thank you. Or there's just 1,000 little ways. I think sometimes people they get too worried about the big ideas small ways that you can give appreciation is huge. And the last point I'll make on that is I found a lot of people in the school district world, development disability world, service world, park districts, whatever. When you're a superintendent or a leader, sometimes folks are modest, which is wonderful. Understand that if somebody gets a handwritten note from the superintendent or the executive director, it's a big deal, or the department head or whatever else. So those small acts of kindness from you to connect with that person so they can connect with the greater mission of the organization are priceless.
Thank you, Tom. Again, for all of you that tuned in, thank you for taking the time to tune in. Again, as Tom shared, a common theme here is intentionality. Intentionality about the direction of the organization, intentionality about helping others understand what their role is in achieving that direction, intentionality about clarifying your own moral purpose, sharing that and helping others understand and connect their moral purpose to that as well. Intentionality about recognizing good work and celebrating good work, and then really appreciating those who are doing that on a day in and day out basis. And just repetition, repetition, repetition. Thank you all for tuning in. Tom, anything as we conclude?
I think that was a beautiful summation. Well done.
All right, take care, everyone.